Hey, welcome to the channel again. Now today we're going to be discussing the new season that's approaching and the games that are going to happen on Saturday and Sunday this coming week in the Championship, League 1 and League 2. We're going to discuss certain games in these leagues and give an overview of them. Now before I do that, please remember to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Now the first league we're always going to be talking about is the Championship. We've got a few games that we're looking at in particular. The first one we're looking at is Leeds v Portsmouth. Now, as we know, Leeds have recently let go a couple of one very young talented player, Archie Gray, to Tottenham, and also just recently one of the better strikers, Somerville, to West Ham. However, Portsmouth, who they are playing and just been promoted into the Championship, haven't really brought anybody of note in. They've only really bought Matt Ritchie from Newcastle, and he was a free transfer anyway as he's been let go of. I personally think on this particular game the score will be 2-1 to Leeds. I think Leeds will be too strong for Portsmouth and they'll manage to overrun them. Leeds actually ended up in the playoff finals and unfortunately lost to Southampton, so they were very close to getting promoted to the Premier League. But let's see what happens with that game. Next one game I'll discuss is Plymouth v Sheffield Wednesday. Now Plymouth finished in 21st place and Sheffield Wednesday finished in 20th place in the Championship last year. So they're both didn't play particularly well last year. They weren't really strong in any particular areas. So this is going to be a pretty close match. I put it down as a 1-1 draw. Don't forget this is also Rooney's first game as Plymouth manager. And I don't really rate Rooney as a manager. He's a great player. He's one of the best players we've ever had in this country, English players. But as a manager, he just doesn't cut it. So, but I think also Sheffield Wednesday, they've only bought in Darko Gabi, midfielder from Leeds, so of any note. So I think it's going to be a very close one. So as I say, I think it's going to be 1-1. The next game we're going to talk about is Oxford v Norwich. Now Oxford have just recently got promoted from League 1. And Norwich ended up in 6th place. Norwich always played to reaching high standards in the Championship, and sometimes they get promoted to the Premier League, but they're just never strong enough and instantly go down the following year. They just don't seem to be able to follow up with the style they play in the Premier League. But they're always pretty strong in the Championship. They're always there or thereabouts. Having said that, I think Oxford are looking at a very strong side. They recently brought in Jack Harriott from AFC Wimbledon, a very strong fullback, and Peter Kiosi from Rotherham as well. Whereas Norwich have only brought really Callum Doyle on loan from Manchester City. So I just feel that Oxford on this occasion will get the better, as their home as well, will get the better of Norwich. So I go for a 1-0 win over Norwich. The final game we're going to discuss in the Championship is Sunderland v Cardiff. Now Sunderland ended up in 16th place last season and Cardiff ended up in 12th. So by that they should be a very close match. However, I do think Sunderland will start very fast and I feel they're going to go and win by 2-0. They've still got Joe Bellingham there, he's not moved on, so they've still got that same person there. And Simon Moore has been brought in as a goalkeeper, so we don't know how that's going to do, but it sounds like an interesting acquisition. And then as for Cardiff, they brought in Alex Robinson as a mid-centre midfielder. But I still feel for this match, Sunderland will outplay Cardiff at home and win 2-0. Now let's move on to League 1 now. And the first match we're going to talk about League 1 is Barnsley v Mansfield. Now Barnsley last term in League 1 finished as 6th, and Mansfield have been newly promoted from the League 2. Barnsley brought in Mark Roberts and Mansfield have brought in a forward, Will Evans from Newport. I think this game will be a very close game. I don't think either side will be too dominant, so I predict a 1-1 draw between these two teams. The next game we're going to talk about in League 1 is Stockport v Cambridge. Now Stockport got promoted last season from League 2, were the most dominant team in League 2, and Cambridge were in 18th place. Now Stockport were playing at home, so I feel because of this Stockport will win 2-1. They've recently brought in a midfielder by the name of Lewis Fioroni from Manchester City, and Cambridge have brought in from Blackpool a forward by the name of Shane Lavery. However, I do think Stockwell, as they're playing at home, will be too strong for Cambridge and will come out 2-1 winners. The next match we're going to talk about in League One is Wrexham v Wycombe Wanderers. Now, Wrexham got promoted last year, played very well, obviously with their film star backing. They're forward like Mullins and Palmer. They are pretty unstoppable in League Two. Let's see how they do in League One. Now, they're playing Wycombe Wanderers, who finished in 10th place in this league last year. Wrexham brought in George Dobson from Charlton, who was previously on loan a couple of years ago to AFC Wimbledon. He's a very, very good midfielder. So it's a very good catch for Wrexham. And Wycombe Wanderers have brought in Tyne Baxter as defensive midfielder from Sheffield Wednesday. He's okay. However, I do think Wrexham, because they're playing at home, even though I think it'll be a close game, will still win probably about 1-0. So I think the score will be 1-0 to Wrexham over Wycombe Wanderers. And finally, for the last match we're going to discuss in League One is Crawley v Blackpool. Now, Crawley got promoted through the playoff final to League One. Blackpool finished in 8th. Again, I feel this will be a very close game. Crawley have not really brought anybody new note in, and Blackpool have brought in from Watford Ashley Fetcher, a forward. I feel it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I don't think it's not going to be free flowing. I think it's going to be stop and start match, maybe quite a few fouls going in. So I feel that's how that's going to end up there. Now let's finally move into matches in League Two. Now the first match I'm going to talk about is AFC Wimbledon v Colchester. Now AFC Wimbledon finished in 10th place in League Two last season, and Colchester finished in 22nd. They're playing at home Wimbledon and they've recently brought in Stephen and Piggott, who was playing for them three years ago. So he's well known on the AFC Wimbledon by the AFC Wimbledon supporters and team. That really brings extra strength to Kelly and Boole up front. And whereas Colchester have brought nothing of real note, no really notable new signings. So I really feel this will be a tough game, but I think AFC Wimbledon will win 1-0. Let's move on to the next game, the franchise v Bradford. Sorry, so I should say MK Dons v Bradford. Now MK Dons ended up in 4th place last season in League Two and lost in the playoff semi-finals, whereas Bradford finished in 9th place. MK Dons have brought in Tommy Lee from Accrington, whereas Bradford have brought in Aidan Baldwin, a centre-back from Notts County. These are players with note. I think MK Dons are probably going to have the upper hand. They're at the home round. I predict a 2-1 win against Bradford, although I do feel it's going to be a very close match as well. And finally, the final match I want to discuss in League Two is Doncaster v Accrington Stanley. Now last season Doncaster had an excellent run. They won their last 11 games, ended up in 5th place in the League Two, got all the way up from about 17th place all the way up to 5th place, and then lost in the semi-finals against Crawley in the playoffs. Whereas Accrington Stanley had a pretty poor season in League Two last season and only finished in 17th place. Doncaster brought in a forward from Hull City by the name of Billy Sharp, and whereas Accrington Stanley brought in right back and left back from Morecambe. Both reasonable players, not that strong, but I feel because of the way Doncaster play, they will dominate Accrington Stanley greatly and as they did in the last 11 games of the last season, put the ball in the back of the net a lot. So I view them a very strong 3-1 win against Accrington Stanley. Anyway, those are my predictions and thoughts of transfers for these games in the Championship, League One and League Two. If you'd like to make any comments on and predictions yourself, please put them in the notification below. Anyway, we shall speak to you soon. Goodbye.